If you're currently struggling to lose weight and keep it off, chances are you've probably searched the internet trying to figure out what to do, and you've either tried a lot of different things and failed at all of them, or you've seen so much information that you're overwhelmed and ended up doing nothing, and now you're confused, frustrated, and you're losing hope. But what if I told you there's 7 common mistakes that people make in the beginning when they're trying to lose fat that end up causing them to fail? Meaning that if you do these things, the chances that you're gonna be successful in the long term are extremely low. But if you fix these things, the chances that you will lose the weight and keep it off are gonna skyrocket. Well, in this video, I'm gonna go over the 7 most common mistakes that I see that are stopping people from losing the weight and keeping it off, and how you can fix them. Let's get into it. Now, the first mistake people make is that they have no specific goal. Now, the reason it's important to have a goal that is incredibly specific is because if you don't know what your exact goal is, it is very hard for you to find a plan or figure out a plan that's going to get you there, right? If you think about if you needed directions to go to San Francisco, right? And then you just said, let me go to California. You probably are not going to end up where you want to go, and you could take a lot of different ways to get to California, and they probably aren't going to go where you want them to go, right? And that's the same thing that people do when they say, I want to lose weight, I want to be healthy, right? Those are so vague. You know, being healthy to you might mean something completely different to me. And so you want to choose a goal that's incredibly specific so you know exactly where you're trying to go. You know, how much weight are you trying to lose? What is your pant size that you're aiming for? What do you want to look like? What do you want to feel like? The more specific that you can be, the easier it is to reverse engineer a plan from there. So the second mistake that I see people make is having no structured plan, or they have shiny object syndrome. So what does that mean, right? If you don't have a structured plan, you don't really know what it is that you're trying to do and what you're trying to change about your current lifestyle to get you those results, right? You want to be very specific in what you're doing so that you can track what it is that you're doing and what result you're getting back from that. And so when you have no structured plan, not only do you not have an idea of what it is that you're doing and how it can be affecting you, but if you have shiny object syndrome, that means you're hopping from plan to plan to plan or program to program. You're trying all of these different things, but you're not giving anything enough time to figure out whether or not it works, right? Some things take a little bit more time to be able to figure out, well, 1, how to do them right, and 2, whether or not it's getting you the result that you're looking for, right? So if you're constantly hopping from different plan to different plan because you think each one sounds interesting or someone has convinced you to do all of them, then you're usually going to end up more confused, more frustrated, and you're gonna feel like you've done a lot of stuff for nothing, right? So you wanna have something structured, you wanna pick what you think is going to be the best thing to do, and then you wanna stick to it long enough to see what results you're getting from it, and that way you can adjust little pieces about the program or the diet or whatever you're on to make sure that it continues to make you progress in the way that you want to for your specific goal. All right, so the third problem that I see people do is going too hard in the beginning, right? How many times have you started a diet and you're super motivated, so you do a bunch of cardio, you do like an hour cardio because you're motivated, or you take out all your carbs, or you train super crazy, and then what happens? You get over doing the hour of cardio, right? It's too much. You did too much too fast and you can't keep it up. Or you're so hungry because you went from eating everything you wanted in the world to eating basically nothing, and now you're starving and you can't handle it. Or you trained so hard that you can't even go back to the gym the next day or the next week because you're so sore you can't even move, right? So there's a couple problems wrong with going too hard in the beginning. The first one would be, if it's such an extreme change, the chances that you continue to do it are pretty damn low, right? And what's really going to get you the results is the consistency in doing whatever it is that you choose to do. Whatever kind of program or diet or whatever that you want to do, you have to be consistent at it. You're not going to lose all your weight in, 1 week. The other thing is that if you go too hard in the beginning, I mean, you probably end up quitting, but you essentially take away all the tools that you could be using later on in the diet when you reach a plateau, right? So when you hit a plateau, and you will hit a plateau, it's because your body is adapted to whatever it is that you're doing, right? Like, one diet doesn't work forever. You constantly have to make adjustments to whatever you're doing, whether it's eating less food or doing more cardio or doing more training or changing up your training style, whatever it is, you have to do things to either do more work or eat less food to push more progress with the fat loss. But if you go too hard in the beginning, you've essentially taken away all of the adjustments that you could have made later on every time you hit a plateau. So instead of going too hard in the beginning, you want to start by doing the least amount of work possible and eating the most amount of food possible while progressing, so that one, obviously you're making some kind of progress, in a timely manner, but two, it's more comfortable and it's something that you can sustain over a longer period of time because it's so extreme. And then three, you have the room to make the adjustments every time you do hit a plateau. You can make small adjustments constantly so that you can keep breaking through plateaus, and instead of losing that first 10 pounds, you lose the last 10 pounds. The fourth mistake that I see people make is, sorry if my handwriting sucks, but the fourth mistake that I see people make is focusing on cardio over weight training. Most people have read or have seen somewhere on the internet or wherever from a friend that cardio is gonna be what burns the fat. And cardio is a great tool to help you burn more fat because it can help you burn more calories, right? It can increase the number of calories that you're burning in a day, which can be helpful. But if you're focused on cardio over weight training, cardio can help you burn more calories, which can help you lose more weight, but that weight can end up being muscle, because if you're not weight training and doing some form of heavy resistance training, you're not giving your body a reason to maintain the muscle mass that you have. So when you do this and you're more focused on cardio over weight training, your body can lose weight, but a lot of that could be muscle mass. And so when you lose that muscle mass, one, you're not gonna look the way that you want, right? Most people don't just wanna lose weight, they wanna look toned, they wanna lose fat. And so getting that toned and defined look means losing fat and not muscle. So two, the other thing that it does is if you lose a bunch of muscle mass, your metabolism slows down. Because the more muscle mass you have, the more calories it takes for your body to maintain itself. It takes more calories to maintain muscle mass than it does to maintain fat. So if you have more muscle mass, that means your body burns more calories throughout the day, which means your metabolism is higher, it's faster, right? And so it's easier to lose more fat in the long run because your metabolism is higher from maintaining more muscle mass. If you start losing more muscle mass, that means your metabolism is slowing down. So as you are decreasing food and maybe you're losing more muscle mass, your metabolism is getting slower and slower and slower because you have less muscle mass. So basically what you want to do is you want to focus on weight training first, and then you want to focus on cardio, because weight training is going to be the thing that helps you maintain the muscle mass that you have. Cardio is going to be the things that helps you push past plateaus when you need to lose more fat. So the fifth most common mistake that I see people make is having an all or nothing mentality. People call it perfectionism or whatever, but it's super common for most people to think, I'm either going to be 100% or I'm not going to do it at all. But that's just pretty unrealistic, right? Like, you're not perfect at doing anything. There's nothing that you do perfect from day one. And if we're talking about reaching your goals, we're really talking about consistency and sustainability, right? Like losing weight and keeping it off, it has to be sustainable. And when you have this all or nothing mentality, you're putting this pressure for you to be perfect from day one. And if you're not perfect, then you're not doing anything, right? Like, you want to strive for perfection, but there's going to be times where you slip up. But if you have this all or nothing mentality, what tends to happen is you go out for the weekend or whatever, and you maybe slip up on your diet a little bit, and then you go, oh my God, everything's lost. And then you completely stop your diet and you're like, oh God, I'll start on Monday. And then Monday turns into next month. And then before you know it, you've gained all the weight that you've already lost and you went backwards and you lost all your results, right? It's not about being all or nothing. It's about, where am I right now? How can I be better, or at least a little bit better? What can I do better tomorrow, today, the next day, the next day? How can I incrementally get better, 1% better every day? Whether that means getting a better schedule for when I'm gonna go to the gym, maybe being more on top of when I go grocery shopping or meal prepping, maybe it's staying on track with my diet a little bit better, being a little bit more refined on that, right? There's so many little things that you can do to improve, and you have to focus on making these small improvements rather than saying, I either do all of this or I do none of this. Because if you do none of it, it is the only way to guarantee that you never keep it off, and you probably never make any progress because you're just going to end up being fat. Now, the sixth most common problem I see people making is not training hard enough, right? If you are weight training, that is a good start. But if you're doing stuff that you already know that you can do, you're not giving your body much of a reason to need to either grow or maintain whatever muscle mass it is you have. So when it comes down to it, your body can choose, do I want to eat away at this muscle? Do I want to eat away at this fat? And your body's going to pick that protein, that muscle, if you're not giving it a reason to stay. If you're not saying I'm using this, your body will eventually be partial to eating away at it. It's called being catabolic, right? So training hard enough is important, right? If you do stuff that you already know that you can do, you are not challenging yourself and you're not going to push yourself to reach new heights, right? Like if you just went to the library and you read the same Dr. Seuss book over and over and over, you'd be really good at doing that Dr. Seuss book, but you're never going to get any smarter, right? If you're doing math, if you just do 2 + 2 5 million times, like sure, you know that, but you're not pushing yourself to learn more. You have to go in the gym and do everything with a purpose to get better, which means you are going to fail. It is going to be uncomfortable. But every time you fail and it's uncomfortable, you're basically signaling to your body that I need to adapt to this stressor. And so I'm either going to put on more muscle if you are in a position to do that, or I'm going to do what I can to maintain as much muscle mass as possible and keep my strength so that I can handle this stressor the next time that it comes around. And that's exactly what you want, right? When you're losing weight, you want to make sure that you're losing fat, not losing muscle, because then you get toned and defined and you look good and you get the 6-pack and you don't look like a saggy bag of shit, right? But this is what you need to do when you go in the gym. You need to get 1 to 2 reps shy of failure at least, or even better, get to failure. And failure is not when you think it's hard, when you're like, oh my God, this is so hard. It's when your muscle tells you, I physically cannot move this anymore. Obviously that comes with having good form. Don't throw shit around and blow your back out doing deadlifts. Train smart, but you have to push yourself. It has to be difficult for you to push your body's limits. And that way you maintain muscle mass, your metabolism's higher, and you look damn good. All right, so the 7th most common problem that I see people make is not viewing this as a lifestyle change. Now, the reason that this is such a problem is whatever you do to get your results, right? Whatever you do to lose that weight, it's gonna be roughly whatever you have to do to make sure that you keep it off. So a lot of people like to do these fad diets where you take out all your carbs, or you only eat chicken breast and broccoli and tilapia and whatever the hell that shit is, right? But the chances that you do that for a long period of time is very low. And so if you choose to do those things to get the weight off, will you get the weight off? Sure, if you're motivated enough, you can follow it for that amount of time. But what happens when you want to stop, right? If you're just viewing it as a diet, like a 30-day diet, 60-day diet, 90 days, whatever, if you're motivated enough, you can do that, but you're already viewing it as I'm going to stop this in the future. And the second that you stop, you're going to go backwards. You're going to go back to that normal life that you have. You're going to get all the results that you used to get, except now you're probably hungry. You're probably really food focused because you've been, starving or, pushing yourself really hard for the last 90 days or whatever. And then you go binge and eat a bunch of crap and you gain the weight back like that, right? That is what you don't want. That is pointless. That's doing those 30-day challenges where you lose 20 pounds in, 30 days and then all of a sudden you gain 30 pounds in the next 30 days, right? You want to make sure that you're viewing this as a lifestyle change. And that means you have to be eating in a way and training in a way that you can see yourself doing this for a long period of time. Because if you don't see yourself doing this for a long period of time, you're gonna stop and then you lose everything. And so that's where you have to understand that sometimes you don't need to be 100% optimal. You could be 80% optimal, because 80% optimal with 100% adherence is way better than 100% optimal, but you don't do it all the time. Because it's so much easier to mess up your diet than it is to make progress. And so when you view this as a lifestyle change, which is exactly what my program is about, and we can talk about that later, but that's exactly what my program is about. Like, I want you to understand, how do I mix my personal life and my goals together, right? How do I know if I go out to eat, how do I make a good choice at the restaurant? If I go out to eat and I completely blow it and I eat a whole pizza and a cheesecake, how do I come back from that? How do I make these decisions, right? Because all of these things are super important because they're going to happen at some point in your life. And if you don't understand how to handle it, chances are you're gonna mess it up, and then you're gonna go back, you're gonna feel sorry for yourself, and then you're gonna go back to eating like crap because you're feeling like sad and whatever, and you lose all your progress, right? You have to think about it as making a lifestyle change, and that way you're more focused on progress, and you're more focused on what are the things that I actually have to do to make the progress and be able to maintain it, right? You want to learn how to have that flexibility so that you can still live your life and enjoy your life. Because one thing that you don't want to do is go through life and you go on this 90-day diet, maybe even get it for a year, right? But you keep saying no to birthdays, you keep saying no to celebrations, you never do anything else because you're so focused on your diet. And you know what eventually happens? You end up hating your diet, and then you quit, and then you feel like you've been so restricted and it's so horrible that you end up binging, and then now you have like PTSD and you never want to diet again. But it doesn't have to be like that. You just have to understand how to have flexibility, knowing when to do what, and how to come back from it. Like if you do mess up, just how do you come back, right? And those are the things that you need to learn. These are the 7 things that I see that stop people before they even really get started losing weight and making sure that they can keep it off and look the way that they want. If that was helpful for you, I hope it was. And if one of these in particular really spoke to you and really helped you out, or it's a lesson that you think you needed to learn, comment down below. I would love to know. I'll read all the comments. And if you want to download my free Fat Loss Jumpstart Guide, it'll tell you exactly how much calories and how much protein you need just to get started and get you on your way. You can download that in the link below. And if you want to book a call and see if we'd be a good fit to work together and you want to join the program, links in there too. But like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. See you later.